Hi, I'm Paul Butler. I'm one of the client partners at New Leaf Training and Development, and I'm delighted to be joined today by Hayden, who is a talent acquisition and communications consultant at TTH Strategy. We actually first got to know each other with your work, didn't we, Haley, at McGraw-Hill Education, an organisation I'm delighted to say is a client of ours. Now, Haley, the purpose of these Take Fives is to give people some practical help, provide some hope, and even sprinkle in a little bit of humor. So I've just got one question, which I'd love you to run with for about 4 minutes or so, as we do call these Take Five for a reason. So here's the question. What are you learning personally, professionally, and even as an organization during these rather challenging days that you think would be helpful, hopeful, or even humorous? And tell us a little bit more about the work that you do, Haley, what you guys do and who you serve. So over to you, Haley, and I'll wrap it up when you're done.
Okay. Thank you, Paul. I really appreciate the opportunity to reflect on the last few months. I know not many of us actually want to reflect on the last few months because it's been such a challenge, but I've really enjoyed the opportunity to stop and think about what I've learned. I think often when we are forced to quickly adapt and change, we don't take the time, or take five, if you will, to reflect on the experiences that we've had and learn from them like we would if we were in a more controlled environment. So I've really enjoyed that, and hearing the reflections of your other speakers as well, and their assessments and the information they've shared. But for me personally, I've had I've had to adapt or possibly even develop what I believe is a new definition of work-life balance. Had you asked me before March of 2020 what I thought work-life balance meant, I would have laughed at you and thought it was hogwash. I never really thought that there was such a thing in terms of what I believed the expectation was around work-life balance. But for many of us now in our current state, work and life quite literally sit side by side, where we've come into this environment where we're working remotely. And so there's really little challenge of balance in the sense of having that separation or having equal time for one or the other. Often we're sitting side by side with them, zooming down the road, no pun intended. And so what I found for me over the last few months is that the key has been to understanding, as well as clearly communicating with all the parties involved, whether it is my significant other, my child, my client, any organizations I'm working with, what I need in terms of time, meaning today I need to take what might be some work time so that I can take my child for a bike ride, so that I can pull him off of the light fixture and get some energy out so that I can focus and contribute effectively, or vice versa, sharing with my family. I know it's Saturday morning and normally we go on a hike or what have you, but I need to sit down and work on this proposal for a client. I need that time. And I think I've had to really trust in my work ethic and believing that I have demonstrated to the folks that I work with that I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. And if for some reason I can't do it, then I'm going to communicate that to you. And I'm going to hope and believe that you are going to appreciate that and trust that I will, meet the expectations that you've had of me. So, where I previously was jaded in terms of what it meant to have some work-life balance, I now have been forced, if you will, to really define that and use that on a daily basis to make sure that I am not only meeting the expectations of my family and my personal life, that I'm also meeting the expectations of the clients that I work with. And I've heard that from some other folks as well. And several of your presenters shared that in the other Take Five segments, that they've really had to set an expectation for managers and their employees that we understand you worked a 9-to-5 schedule before, but that may not work now. And you have children at home who are learning and you have to stop and help them. And we understand that as well. So I'm really hopeful that as we progress, as we start to hire and bring people back into the office or continue on in this remote working environment that so many of us are in, then employers will embrace that new definition, or at least take a step back and really give their employees or their team members some trust, and letting them adapt to a way that will help them be efficient and effective in their roles.
Oh, that's brilliant. Haley, before I forget, tell us a little bit more about your organization. What do you do?
Absolutely. So I have about 20 years experience in talent acquisition and communications, previously working in financial services and technology. I have spent the last 3 or 4 years as a consultant in these areas as well. And my last few industries, it's been really fun to kind of expand out of what I knew in terms of talent acquisition and communications and look at other areas and really see where the gap is not necessarily a gap like I may have thought. How I've been able to take those skills and move them into something like educational technology or customer service or customer data platforms. It's been really fun to have that variety in terms of clients and still be able to use the skills that I developed when I was working for companies and organizations.
Oh, thanks so much. Well, Haley, on behalf of everyone who watches these, and they've started to become incredibly popular, thank you again for your insights. Thank you again for the great work that you do to help people and organizations be the best. I wish you a wonderful rest of the day. Thanks ever so much, Haley.
Thanks for having me, Paul. I enjoyed it.